Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all around the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. I have the CEO of Brickken, Edwin Mata. Edwin, welcome to the show today.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for having me here. Excited to be in your podcast.
I'm excited you're here to join me today. This is awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. And let's start off with the first question I ask everybody, and I get amazing answers, so I never get tired of asking it. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, so interesting. I think it is a logical background because I'm doing tokenization, so real world asset. And my background is I used to be an M&A lawyer. So from lawyer to technology, a couple of years later, I stumbled upon the technology in 2018, and that's where I just decided to build what we have today, which is Brickken. So yeah, I think it's a logical background, I believe.
Awesome. Um, Sounds like to me. So let's ask you out. What Brickken is all about. What's your vision? What's your mission in the space? What are you aiming to do?
Yeah, so when we started in 2020, we always foresaw that financial instruments as we see, they will be on chain just because of how efficient everything runs on blockchain value, right? So there's no intermediaries, cross-border, worldwide. So we thought kind of like it would be a great capital formation format if you can open the possibilities for people looking for capital to be able to disclose it to a wide range of possibilities. So not just local investors, as we are used in Web2, but global potential investors. So our vision started from there in 2020. We always saw tokenization as the next way that capital can be formed and as the next way for now companies to be able to get capitalized. And yeah, I believe we were correct because 5 years now into the game, we're still here, rocking hard, and yeah, our vision got validated.
Awesome. My next question is about, I guess you know I don't think about them too much anymore. I used to have a weekly show called The X Factor where I would trash and bash Gary Gensler on the SEC, and I don't do that show anymore. So I should bring it back because I don't have anybody to trash and bash. But how has the SEC, in thinking about them, lived up to the mandate that tokenization is, in quotes, right, innovation to be encouraged and not hindered? How they lived up to that?
I strongly believe they're living up to that. There's still a way because now we have a couple of clear regulations, like for stablecoin, the Genius Act, Clarity, and whatnot. Now understanding what governmental body is going to deal with the tokenized assets, if it's a security, the SEC, commodities, if it's the CTF, I forgot CTFC. Uh, so we started to get a clear path. So I think the first true steps for tokenization to become a standard, not even a reality, because tokenization is a reality already. But let's pretend that it's going to be a standard. I think we're doing the right path. And not just on the United States with the SEC, but in other countries, everybody's trying to specialize the regulation for tokenization to thrive. So I think everybody that is in the finance world understands that this is just an upgrade of how financial markets are going to run. And basically, we're all expecting that when is it going to become a standard?
So you're looking at the RWAs as securities, or you're looking at them as maybe something else?
Oh, it depends. It depends what they're representing. So they can be a security, such as equity, such as a debt bond, but it can be asset backed as a commodity, gold, minerals, or whatnot. So there's not one single answer as to what is the tokenized asset. It depends on the company who's representing whatever format they are into the chain. So tokenization has various ways. A stablecoin is tokenized money. It's a format of tokenization as well.
I had a conversation the other day with somebody who said that RWAs are NFTs. And I know the SEC has had no issue at all with the NFTs, or maybe they did it early on, but so you don't hear about that. So what if it were NFTs? possible? Would you need, legal, would you need lawyers involved? Like,
Yeah, okay. So we can go here for a long time, but I don't want to be boring to your community. It
not
don't
boring.
matter what technology you use, right? So you can call it ERC20, ERC721. You can call it a napkin, a paper, an email. It don't matter the format. Technology doesn't mutate or condition what legality is applied to the source. So it matters that if you're using a security in the format of an NFT, it don't matter if it's an NFT, it's still a security. And that was this misconception that if you use certain technology or certain ways, you hinder the security format. But that's not true. Technology is not the decider of what are you issuing. It is the company that does something that triggers a specific regulation. So a security can be in an NFT, it can be in an ERC20, it can be in any format you can imagine. Because the important thing is the process, the objective, the conclusion, not the technology. Technology is just an habilitator.
Got it. So you see a lot of people try to disguise things in the technology being the So you said standard, right? So what should the standard be? I know it has been the Howey test or whatever. Should there be
Oh,
some other standard created to accurately assess this so that you don't do any damage to founders and to entrepreneurs?
I think that how it test should stay because it's still applicable to today. Because they were doing orange futures, so that but on paper format. But now that paper format became an electronic format, but still the same source. They were selling futures. And basically, what I'm trying to say here is the standard is not the technology, it's how we understand that if we do something, we fall under that regulation. So the standardization, as I'm explaining, should come from the regulator explaining and specializing the path that okay, we have this great technology called blockchain, but if you do all of this, it will still be a security. The important thing is that the regulators should always start mitigating the gray areas because the gray areas is where we all fall into maybe trying to do something good, but we end up doing something bad. Maybe a regulator says we're doing something bad and we're doing something good, so we have to defend ourselves. So the whole problem with the legislation, it's always a gray area. So standardization comes from a regulatory point of view where they put the path and companies understand that it don't matter how technology or company or jurisdiction or person or entity, what matters is if you follow this process, you are doing this.
Got it. So that what you said makes sense to me. So very good.
Hey, thank you. Okay, yeah,
Oh,
my years of experience of lawyer trying to explain so many things. But I mean, it's like you said, it has to be logical. That's the purity of it.
yeah. So let's talk about something logical, more logical. RWAs can have the potential to become the bridge that brings us from TradFi, like I'm an old AIG guy, to Web3, to newer, the new evolution in the world, right? So how can RWAs become that bridge that brings us, forward?
Okay, now obviously I'm biased because of my company and the sector, but I strongly believe stable coins without a hand is kind of like the best use case, and it will always be the use case because it allows everything else to thrive. You digitize money and you allow now in this technology to transfer money and whatnot. And the next thing is tokenization of RWAs because the world itself, it moves on capital and financial markets, be it company equity on NASDAQ, public offerings, be it bonds, T-bills, it's debt from a country, or private credits of a company looking to source capital. So if you have money that now runs on blockchain, and now you have all of these finance needs, which on Web2 run the world, and you put it on Web3, it's just natural and it's logic. So now you have the money, and now you have the capital generators. So RWAs is by default the next big thing in blockchain because it's actually what moves the world. And we don't even know, for example, just so we see the density, we don't know how many trillions of locked value are in Web2 because there's not a measurement. We don't have the measurement of all the debts being issued by companies, promoters. There's indicators. Nasdaq is an indicator of public money or public valuations, but not of private valuations. Now, slowly putting these things on blockchain, we're opening new markets and new points of value. So this is going to be interest. Just the single sector of private credit can be 100x the current trillion cap of cryptocurrencies. So we have to understand how much value can be unlocked with this technology.
I have a couple follow-ups there. Well, first, yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'll ask you about this because I asked you about the institutions. So when I ask you, if tokenization were expanded to subject matter experts and startups, how would that look, and what's your role in making that a reality?
I'm sorry, I actually, could you repeat your question?
Sure. We looked at tokenization, from TradFi to Web3, but what if RWA tokenization expanded to subject matter experts and startups, right? Well, how would that look, and what's your role and potential role in making that a reality too?
Well, our role here in Brickken is to put in that possibility of companies of using the blockchain rails for the capital formation easy and accessible. We are allowing them to use the technology through a plug and play. So we're facilitating for them to use tokenization as a possibility. That's kind of like our role here. It's not telling them what is the best way. It's us allowing them to choose from a variety of options because capital for capitalization it's getting more complex, right? So you're a startup, very few VCs. If you are trying to build I don't know, a real estate skyscraper, only two banks. The capital is expensive, and in some countries it's even more expensive. So what tokenization does is just adds a new lane of possibilities. Not telling you you're going to be successful. It's going to tell you that at least you have a new option versus you still have all your other rest of options, but now you have a new option, which is cryptocurrencies, which is worldwide, which is stablecoins, which is all of these things that are being formed in the blockchain. So what we're trying to achieve here is just for startups or real estate or gold miners, it don't matter the asset class, is for them to understand that through the use of this technology, not telling them to be successful, but I'm giving them more possibilities to achieve successfulness.
I like that. I like that. So, and I do have a follow up there too. So let me go back. Let me go back to SMEs, and you said validators. We don't have validators, to show authenticity or success, or And I saw an article, and I think I agree with it, in China about influencers. They said that China wants their influencers in finance, medicine, law to have college degrees and advanced certificates in order to say anything online. For China, to
Yes,
me,
sir.
that makes sense. In the U.S., we have freedom of speech, but I think I agree with it for China. I don't know if I agree with it for the U.S. market, but it makes sense. So, what do you want to find out? What your thoughts on China's path is, and how would that affect and be applicable to other countries?
Yeah, so I mean, I here think it's more about the trust foundation, and right now everybody became a source of trust, unfortunately. Like online, you post something and it can be a ridiculous thing, but if you have some engagement, it becomes true by default. And I think that's a big mistake of it is true freedom of speech, but freedom of speech should come with responsibilities because if you make a declaration, it's because you allegedly are knowledgeable on the sector. But the thing is, now I can pay you to pretend that you know. And this is what happened in the crypto markets in 2021. There were people just getting paid, amassing followers, and guiding them to the cliff because they didn't care. It was that. So I think that we have to put responsibility. I'm not saying block freedom of the speech, but we do need to have people responsible for what they post because you are like promoting something or you're telling people to do something or follow, and that can have a very negative impact. I mean, it's responsible. And the funny thing is, everybody online doesn't care. But you go to a bar and you don't hear somebody telling you, "Oh yeah, by like." It feels like we're protected because online it don't matter, but nobody acts the same way offline than online. So imagine going to a pretend up doctor. Like you go to a hospital that is not a hospital and you see a pretend up doctor, you go in, it's, oh, you got cancer. Now give me $10,000 and you're out. That would be a scam. But online, it don't matter. We have this guru who's not a doctor and said like, oh, if you drink tea every morning, you're gonna get your cancer cured. And somebody reads that and it's like, oh, I don't have cancer anymore because this alleged doctor told me that every morning I should drink tea. Like it's the same, kind of like not saying China is good. I'm just validating a point of perspective, which is very hard to understand what is the right or the wrong. But I do feel like whatever we do online or offline, there has to be a degree of responsibility.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they say that in crypto, 99.9999% of the KOL, the opinion leaders are paid shills. I guess I'm in the 0.00001% that's not, which is okay with me. I'm glad I'm talking to you today. But I do have a college degree, a master's degree. So, and with that master's degree, one of the things I understand is derivatives. And
Well,
I know in BlackRock, a lot of some of the focus around BlackRock and other financial companies are on blockchain, right? But a lot of the emphasis is on derivatives. Now, when are we going to start tokenizing derivatives, and what would that open up? Because that market is a heck of a lot larger than any other market.
yeah. So I hated derivatives in college. That's kind of like something I couldn't do. I was studying economy. I switched to law because I derivatives course kills me. It's like I'm not doing more math. So now that we're doing now this organization, I mean, it's just another financial instrument. I think all of this is gonna end up on chain, but it's not because now I love tokenization and doing to blockchain. It's just because it's a better technology to do settlements, swaps, conciliation. It's just because of the embedded characteristics that blockchain has by default. It makes these kind of transactions better. And obviously, because there's possibilities of you not having to rely on intermediaries, siloed information where it has to go trigger, pick up the data, go to another point. Here, all of this can be in instantly because it's an open layer. So derivatives, futures of everything that we see in Web2 is going to be built on Web3. And since we are doing something in a new technology, probably we're going to start creating even new financial instruments because derivatives did not exist that well on paper. It was more of a technological leap. So maybe on this one, there's going to be created new forms of financial investment or products just because it's a new technology. So it's going to be interesting to see where do we land with all of this.
Yeah. See that to me excites me more than people saying that stable coins are the killer app. If stable coins are the killer app, then I'm like I picked the wrong industry. No, I mean, what do you agree that stable coins are the killer app, or do you think there should be much, 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 much more, possible? What are your views on the stable
Yeah,
coins?
I think stablecoins it's a tool, but it's not the app. Kind of like it's just like this is what I don't understand with people. Kind of like is the world the killer app the USD? No, USD is an enabler for people to do business, investments, transact. It's value. It's a tool, but the killer app probably will say like it's internet because it allowed applications to be built on top. So in blockchain, stablecoins is not the killer application because if there's only money there and no applications and no anything, so why would you use that? Kind of like you need to put that tool to work. It's an enabler to create killer apps. And are we building a killer apps? I think right now we're on the best iteration because 2021, a lot of people were like metaverse, NFTs, and hiding kind of like the true things that could be built. And now as the maturity of the technology and the know-how around the world, it's actually building the applications that use the best of the tool stable coins for them to generate an application product that is actually gonna soon become a killer thing on blockchain. Is it being built? I cannot say, but we're definitely guided towards that being built.
Yeah. And if art has been around for thousands of years, the metaverse is like 50 years old. AI is like over 100 years old. And now everybody's saying it's all new. Right? It's not new. It's new. It's being newly enabled.
Completely.
So, um, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to work on mass adoption and have the whole world be on chain, right? So
Innovators.
how will the expansion of retail access toward inclusion, being included, contribute to making investment opportunities available to everyone in the world?
So that's a very, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's very kind of like theoretical, kind of like you want to build something that everybody uses. And I think the first thing that you have to do is forget about the technology and focus on the user experience. Something as simple that a lot of companies fail to understand. Kind of like people don't use people want to use the product, but to give them the accessibility, they have to understand the product. And one thing we have done in blockchain very badly for the last, I would say, 7, 8 years, is we complicated things on names, on access. Maybe the technology had to mature for it to add, but we alienated everything. Kind of like staking. Why nobody call it a deposit? Like you put the asset here, it accrues a yield. It's a deposit. Somebody had to come with staking and farming and liquid state. Like I think the first like how we're gonna adopt this is stop pretending that we're creating a new world, start understanding we're doing an upgrade on an existing world, and start using the same terms and not just the same terms. A flow that people understand because sometimes you go deep into DeFi. Sometimes I have complications because you have to get the LP tokens, then you have to move to a staking vault, and then the vault you get some, and it's like, why do I have to do all of this? Like I understand the concept because now I'm deep, but the first time I had to do all of that, I was clicking with a lot of fear. It's like I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm following the rules. So it's kind of like those will never work for the rest. And because us in blockchain, we feel like, oh, but it's easy to understand. It's like we have a higher intellect on technology just because of how hard we have put the minimum that we have to understand and redo. But a lot of other people will not have the time nor the patience to try to even understand because some people just like 50-second reels. That's how much effort they're gonna put into their conscience of doing something. So I think the first thing for adoption is for us to reduce the friction, which is language, accessibility, and then the whole application to be clean, simple, and not go into all of this weirdness. Nobody likes
Yeah. So what year did you come into crypto?
2018.
2018. Okay. Well, you didn't happen to have a chance to get into the early yield farming rooms at all, do you?
No, no. No, I stayed away from Jillian till like 22, huh? Because I
Okay.
was too complicated. Not maybe it was compli Maybe now I find it simple, but at the time, I remember I was like, I'm not doing any of the things that I'm doing because I don't understand half of it, and I like to do things that I fully understand.
Yeah. So the yield farming rooms back in 2021 was a crazy. It was like complex math on top of complex. Like, what are you even doing here? You know, I
Yeah,
tried to understand it and I couldn't. And I'm like, it's wild stuff. You know. Um, so we got
I
it.
think
So I
that was the
agree.
time when they call it the food protocols. You had like the jam, the burger protocol, and there was all like DeFi on top of DeFi. And I remember my Twitter being flooded with kind of like food emojis because everybody was building something around it. The sushi swap was born there, but sushi swap turned into Dex. But it was kind of like I remember that kind of like error. And it's like this is a problem, guys. This is the problem. It's like we're generating too much innovation on something that we don't even know if it works. It was all testing phase.
Yeah. Yeah. So tools, right? So those tools. So some of them didn't work. I want to find out what tools are available in secondary markets that that are understandable, um, and how you can integrate them natively.
Yeah. So I think that's the applications burden, right? Like you have all of these great applications or protocols and whatnot, and as the middleware between the user Web2 and the Web3 technology, this is the application. We have to understand how to provide that access, but at the same time abstract all the complexity. So how do you do it? Man, this is kind of like one of the things that we struggle the most in Brickken, because I find a lot of great solutions out there, but I'm not confident enough that my clientele will understand what I'm trying to provide, just because there's a lot of yield. And for example, something as simple as yielding. A lot of people feel like yielding 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 15 on stables, it's a scam. But it's because there's a lot of things how you can generate money on top, kind of like banks do. But Web2 people, they're like, no, no, no. I think that's impossible. You cannot yield money on top of money. And it's like, yes, you can, but you just don't know how. And I think to answer your question, I think I don't know, just a little bit of trying to promote the best to your clients, and then obviously great user experience. But the full responsibility will always lie on the application for allowing them to test there. So it's a complicated answer if to provide that kind of accessibility to clients that don't fully even understand the technology that is underneath it.
So you say it's a major challenge. So how are you embracing or addressing those
Oh,
challenges?
A/B testing. We have a lot of protocols out there because now, for example, with the example of the yielding, our clients raise capital and they have it in their custody, self-custody, and they're not gonna deploy the capital. You raise money, let's pretend 1 million. I'm expecting not to for you not to deploy the 1 million next day. It's usually you start getting chunks as you need it, but it's idle. So what we want to provide to them is connection to a yielding protocol where they can put the yield, all the money stable into yielding, right? I find it simple. I have my money yielding, part of the treasury of the company is yielding. We're testing a lot of them. There's a lot of great products, not like 2021, which was all like super crazy. Now there's a lot of stability, and there's even companies that are regulated, which is amazing. And what we're trying to do is talk to some clients and see what they think of it. Like, okay, you get the money, will you spend? A lot of clients are like, no, why would I send my money? It's like, no, no, it's my money. So even though it's a great addition, some are still reticent of believing too much on that technology, because in the end, this is a tech layer. You don't go to the bank, the regulated entity, to write the money. You deposit the money into a scroll contract or smart contract, which is for them it's kind of like, but that would never work. See, it's weird for me to explain things to them at this level.
Yeah, I love yield, or at least I loved yield in 2022 when I put my money on Celsius when they were offering me certain, double-digit yields on my crypto, which ended up being disappeared. But now I think the seeking of yield is a little safer than it was, back a few years ago. So, what innovations have enabled it to be safer? And something that can be given to clients without them having the fear of losing their deposits.
So I have a very simple answer to that. The people building the yield products today, a lot come from TradFi. So a lot of TradFi people, and I see it when I go to events, kind of like Token 2049 or whatever. Like a couple years ago, it was more, let's say, well, more freedom, more chaotic, which is kind of like the blockchain. But now, especially last year, because I went to the Dubai and the Singapore and all, I saw a lot of suit up people, kind of like well dressed. They come from TradFi. The conversations are different. They understand because they've been doing or generating or handling or funds, or like they're used to move money in a certain way. Not saying they're better or worse, but at least I'm saying the know-how it's definitely better because they used to do that. So now they try to create products here, and they have the same level of know-how and Also, they used to play with all these strict rules, and those strict rules are being placed now into this technology. So they're not, they want to be regulated and compliant because they want to offer a secure environment to other institutions. So I think that showcases that the market is maturing, that technology is maturing, and that's why today I am confident of providing my treasuries to a yield protocol that I feel is regulated, complies with a lot of things, than in 2021 when it was all testing phase and the people generated were maybe great coders and the theory was super nice, but maybe they had never handled funds. So they didn't really know what was really happening in the back because for them it was just a digit. They never felt the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that makes sense to me too. So really interesting stuff. So, well, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I enjoyed speaking with you. I really have one last question. And it's how can people find out more information about you, about Brickken? How can they become clients, customers? How can they do that?
Yeah, so I mean, Brickken.com, we have a lot of insights there. Obviously, follow us on the social media, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're quite big there. And yeah, I mean, we're always looking forward to helping clients get into the tokenization of whatever they want, be real estate, be gold, IP. We don't care. We just provide the tools for you to succeed at what you want to do. And yeah, please, anytime you guys want to talk with us, we're more than happy. And thanks for the shout out.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Have a great one.